Hey, welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Luca Bay, and today we are going to be reacting to how Beyond Scared Straight failed to prevent kids from becoming criminals. Now, I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you've heard of the show already. If not, it's basically about a group of troubled kids or like anybody acting out in public getting put in a group and sent to this jail or whatever prison. And basically, the prisoners would just scare them, try to get them back on the straight and narrow, show them that prison life isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And in the grand scheme of things, this show was just for content. It was just one of those fake reality shows, and it did more harm than good. But either way, let's get straight into it. Like usual, if you have any recommendations for me, let me know down in the comments below. And let's get straight into it.
Unscared Straight is easily one of the most controversial shows in history. Parents of troubled youth pay for their children to tour the inside of a prison or county jail so they can be exposed to the dark reality of life behind bars. When they arrive, they meet with real inmates who strike fear into them with threats, with the goal being to prevent today's teenagers from becoming tomorrow's prisoners. But their exposure therapy techniques are definitely questionable.
Gosh. Yo, I remember this episode.
In the wrong way. This Kool-Aid, we put this on just like you. Lick your lips.
Oh my
Stick your
God.
hand in that Kool-Aid. Just stick it in there.
I remember watching this one for the first time, and I could not figure out for the life of me what this was gonna do. I'm like, how is this helpful in any way, shape, or form?
It's to the bottom one.
All you're doing is trying to scare him and
You orange flavor.
dominant.
You ready?
All right, bro. All right, that's it.
You want to try me? Try me? Yeah, try me. I want you to try me. I want you to try me. Try.
Now, there's no doubt that the show
Had him
is
up on the
entertaining
wall.
and has given us some pretty hilarious moments over the years. However, our entertainment is at the expense of children's suffering.
That's
And
true.
the craziest part is, it has been proven on multiple occasions that Scared Straight doesn't work. In fact, it might actually increase their chances of becoming lifelong criminals.
Jeez.
A lot of people don't realize that Scared Straight is not just a television show on A&E. It's a program that has been implemented all over the United States for the past 50 years. And the reason it got so popular was based on
50
just
years?
one alleged
50 years is crazy. I didn't know they were doing that for. I mean, I get it. There's definitely a lot that happens off screen, like that isn't a part of this show or this program or the TV network. But it's just crazy to think that that's how long it's been going on.
successful experiment. Scared Straight was the name of a television documentary released in 1978, produced by Arnold Shapiro. It was critically acclaimed, won an Academy Award, and even won an Emmy.
See, they're gonna put lipstick on your lips, earrings in your ear, and have you swishing your ass up and down these tears, hustling cigarettes for your man.
Looks like a regular dude though, not a prisoner.
What did I say? What did I say, mother?
Oh, there he
here for
goes.
2 hours. You belong to us for 2 hours.
The film documented youth offenders who visited Rahway State Prison in New Jersey. They met with inmates with the goal of being so scared of going to prison that they went on to live a straight or crime-free life. The documentary claimed that 80 to 90% of the 8,000 children who visited Rahway's program would go on to remain law-abiding.
You need to localize assets without messing
Okay,
everything
they're
up.
gonna be law-abiding
Luckily, there's
citizens.
Adobe Express. Now you
Citizens afterwards. The popularity and surprisingly positive results led to more than 30 states rapidly implementing the program. No further questions were asked. Jails and prisons all over the country saw one documentary and thought they had a solution to all of their youth offender problems.
That's where they messed up at, because they didn't realize that every environment was different and that every kid was different, because they're potentially traumatizing these kids, and then that's going to really affect them in the long run. They're going to end up passing that same anger and aggression on to others down the line and end up in some really big trouble. But I mean, at this point, at least in like at the early stages of everything, it looks like it was a high success rate. So I mean, I get why they were encouraged to do it some more, but I wonder when it started to kind of decline and when they decided like, you know what, let's just keep going. Like at this point, it's just for views because they're in season 5 and it looks like it's still going. It's kind of crazy to me. At what point were they just like, they threw morals out the window?
The program's validity was immediately questioned by juvenile delinquency professionals, but that didn't stop it from becoming popular. The original documentary was followed by Scared Straight, Another Story in 1980, also produced by Arnold Shapiro. This one was just a dramatic film. The subjects were actors who did scripted reenactments of their petty crimes, which led them to entering the Scared Straight program, being screamed at, and then feeling reformed after a couple overnights in the prison. Then in 1987, Scared Straight 10 years later aired.
I'll be your host for Scared Straight 10 years later. A fascinating update on what's happened to the kids and the convicts filmed a decade ago.
Dang,
What I feel I need and I want. It's embarrassing. 10 years ago, yeah, I did that. I did that to look good. Now the difference is I want to look good, but I like to pay for what I take.
We got to see the original 1978 crew, and they all explained how much the program changed their life for the better. The second half of the documentary introduced a new group of troubled teenagers.
But it was a more positive effect. It was all like an act and everything. It wasn't like real life or real prisoners, and they didn't feel like that they were really in danger. So it definitely wasn't going to have the same effect as like the modern day show.
After their trip to Rahway State Prison, the documentary claimed that all 17 of the youth offenders were crime-free just 3 months after their visit. Then MTV connected with Shapiro for another sequel, Scared Straight 99. This documentary was potentially the most raw and shocking of them all. The prisoners were threatening these kids to levels we had never seen before. One inmate made a kid...
That's a kid? Bro looked like an adult with that beard.
The prisoners were threatening these kids to levels we had never seen before. One inmate made a kid hold his pocket as he walked around the cell.
Nah, that's crazy. Oh my gosh.
This was highly regarded as one of the best out of the series, and people still genuinely believe this was an effective form of therapy for youth offenders, which makes sense when you consider the societal standard during this time period. Mental health issues that are widely known today had not been vigorously studied. Mental health as a whole wasn't taken as seriously as it is now. Plus, it was a lot more common for parents to use tough love and physical punishment to discipline their children.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're not wrong. We grew up in the like suck it up generation. Like a lot of gentle parenting came along the way from like probably like a lot of people's younger siblings and whatnot. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of older siblings out there that have to deal with a lot and just have to deal with it just because of the time period and how their parents were brought up. That's how their parents dealt with everything. So they're just passing that on to their kids. Didn't make it right, but I can see where it all came from.
Were seen as an extremely cheap and convenient solution to a very complex problem that is juvenile delinquency. But where Scared Straight received renowned media attention was when they released their 20 years later special. They claimed that of the 17 original 1978 children, only one of them became a career criminal. The 95% success rate shocked news publications. Scared Straight was a miracle solution. They used...
I mean, I get it for the time and place, but like, at some point or another, they gotta realize that just like how the times are changing, and maybe even like just media or something as simple as like sports or like economics, the economy has changed as well. There's a lot of things that have changed since the 1970s, so it just doesn't make sense to me why they kept everything the exact same when the whole like social economics of everything have changed completely. I'm just saying, because people are out here still committing crimes. It's a completely different environment than it was before. So you yelling and like trying to like be all thugga, all giving them tough love and everything. Not everybody, or at least not all the kids today, are gonna correspond to that the same way as like people like my age or like before, just because times are different.
17 people's stories for 20 years to justify this entire program around the United States. But the popular A&E series you all know and love didn't come until
I remember that episode too right here.
It was produced by the same man, Arnold Shapiro. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Super simple. Get every deposit dealt to the U.S. Check this map to see if you are in one of the eligible states. Again, download the Underdog Fantasy app, use code PatrickCC, and get those picks in. Thanks, Underdog Fantasy. So by the time most of us became aware of Scared Straight, it had already been a well-seasoned program all over the United States for 30 plus years. Beyond Scared Straight was a TV show that documented the experiences of troubled children as they embarked on a forced tour of a maximum security prison or jail. During the tours, inmates and officers would go to the greatest lengths, screaming, locking them in cells, putting lipstick on them, roughing them up, anything they could do to shock the children and make them terrified of going to prison in hopes that it would steer them clear of a life of crime.
Now, this is the show that I remember watching, like, when growing up. Not any of the, like, the documentaries or anything like that.
What's up? You like to fight, homie? That's what you like to do, huh? Little bitch. You's a bitch, homie. You's a Pop-Tart. I see right through you, homie.
You better not stop. You better.
Oh my God, they picked this man up.
Try me.
You smirk at me.
He says he don't know. You can't speak up.
Jeez.
How can you speak up? Fact, bitch, you hold this. You drop it, I'll smack out of you. I don't give a about going.
This was the most staggering and horrific Scared Straight program we had ever seen, and people loved it. The show's premiere alone
'Cause it was
attracted a staggering
entertainment, that's all.
3.7 million viewers, making it the most watched.
People were
original
laughing at
series
those kids, but
debuted in
nobody really
network's
thought about,
history.
like,
The
any of the
undeniable
trauma that
success
they
of
might be
Beyond
facing.
Scared Straight led them to producing 83 episodes across 9 seasons, spanning from 2011 until 2015.
83
But
episodes?
The most eye-opening realization about this show is that the Scared Straight program was proven by the federal government not to work. Since the release of the original film, many justice
No
institutions
way.
and criminal prevention professionals have thoroughly studied the effects of the program to determine if it actually works. Surprisingly, numerous studies have shown that the Scared Straight method can actually do more harm than good. The most significant study was conducted by the U.S. Department of Justice after the release of the original film. They examined the outcomes of 9 controlled trials conducted from 1967 to 1992. This involved over 900 children, with the average age of 15 to 17, who participated in Scared Straight-like programs in 8 different states. Also, each study was conducted by a different research team. Every one of these studies also had a control group that did not attend a Scared Straight program.
So it was a little
they were
different from
comparing
before.
Youth offenders who went to Scared Straight versus youth offenders who didn't attend one, and measure.
Oh, that's a terrible way to, like, calculate everything. Because my whole thing is, there were genuinely good episodes of Beyond Scared Straight, like where the young juvenile went out to talk to everybody, the kid that was already in juvie. Or, sorry, he wasn't even in juvie. He was in the big boy prison because of, like, everything that was going on with him. And I think because of his age. He was one of the contestants himself, like, a year or so prior. And when they brought all those kids in, he was now one of the prisoners. Now, I don't know how real that is. You know, a lot of these shows, they like to kind of warp reality a bit. But that, at least in my eyes, felt like one of the good episodes where, like, it was actually going to have a positive impact on the kids. But that's just me.
Their likeliness to become a reoffender. The study found no evidence to support the effectiveness of Scared Straight in similar programs. In fact, all analysis showed that involvement in these programs increased measures of crime and delinquency. In nearly every one of the 9 studies,
Terrible.
the group who went to Scared Straight had a higher rate of reoffense than the group who didn't go. After this
bet.
comprehensive study was published, many others were conducted with different test subjects, different age groups, and different crimes. Many of the studies would produce very similar results. In 1997, University of Maryland researchers completed a report for Congress on the evidence for various crime prevention strategies. The researchers had no
My bad, I had to go grab my sweater. It was getting a little cold.
effectiveness of Scared Straight in similar programs. In fact, all analysis showed that involvement in these programs increased measures of crime and delinquency. In nearly every one of the 9 studies, the group who went to Scared Straight had a higher rate of reoffense than the group who didn't go. After this comprehensive study was published, many others were conducted with different test subjects, different age groups, and different crimes. Many of the studies would produce very similar results.
So instead of just ending the studies altogether, they were like, you know what, let's just try different scenarios. Maybe it was this group specifically, and it's like, no, clearly this program, it wasn't working at all. But I don't know why they just kept going with it. You know what, when you keep getting funding and keep getting money for all that, it's going to be hard to say no. They're going to keep finding an excuse to make it work out. Because there was at one point when I was like in high school, where we were literally watching videos of kids getting sent to jail or juvie just so that the judge could collect a little check. Like, he had an agreement with the warden there, like, where he could just send people there, fill up that prison, and he would pay them for it. But it was a lot of kids who were getting sent there for minor offenses, so it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, if you want to really rehabilitate people, put in the work. Don't just say it just, to get sympathy and get funding.
In 1997, University of Maryland researchers completed a report for Congress on the evidence for various crime prevention strategies. The researchers had no problem listing Scared Straight as one of the programs that doesn't work.
Okay.
To make things worse, these programs could potentially violate federal law. In 2002, which was 9 years before the first A&E episode aired, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention in Washington informed all states that Scared Straight programs or similar programs may violate the separation requirement of the JJDP Act. According to the Act, it is mandatory that juvenile offenders and non-offenders should not be detained or confined in any institution where they may have sight or sound contact with adult offenders. In short, it's illegal to have kids in jail with adults, which makes this clip even harder to watch.
A terrified 9-year-old boy dangled.
Wait, so before I get into this video, would it have made a difference if they would have taken these same kids to like juvie and surrounded them with kids that were more their age? Because I know I mentioned it before about the kid that was a young juvenile that ended up in the adult prison, but and that seemed to have a real impact on them, at least in that episode. But I'm wondering how it would have been if they did that regularly, because if they see the guys or the boys that are in that juvie see another girl close to their age that's not in juvie that looks pretty to them, what's stopping them from just constantly flirting with them in that program, also not working because they're getting sidetracked with a whole bunch of other nonsense. So I'm just like, there's several reasons why this program wasn't going to work, but they refused to let it go. They just kept trying to find a way to make it work.
Like a raw piece of meat in front of a pack.
What are they doing to this kid?
Boy dangled.
Which makes
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and exclusive.
This clip even harder to watch. It's illegal to have kids in jail with adults, which makes this clip even harder to watch.
A terrified 9-year-old boy dangled like a raw piece of meat in front of a pack of prisoners.
We can all agree that traumatizing a child to this degree for stealing pocket change is insane. Then
For stealing pocket change is crazy, I'm not gonna lie. That's a bit excessive. I don't get me wrong, when I was young and watching this, I was really laughing at it. I just saw it as pure entertainment. I didn't really think about how traumatizing it could be for the kids to like do little petty theft or like little things like this, like talking back, and then to be thrown into these scenarios with these crazy like prisoners and everything like that. I can see people downplaying it as not a big deal, but just because they hoisted them up. But still, just from like the kid's perspective, I could probably see that as like really terrifying. So I just don't see how this really could have worked. I only see this working and the only reason why it worked for as long as it did is because it was making the network a lot of money. They were getting the views and everything, so there was no reason for them to stop. They weren't really thinking about morals at that point.
Filming it, editing it, and putting it out into the world is next level. One time they even showed these children a body and described to them what their parents would experience if they go to jail and die while on the inside.
What? I didn't even see that episode.
Break these children down. They start crying, are mortified, and just want to go home. The sad part is, their home life is probably rough as well. On the surface, the concept behind these Scared Straight programs makes sense. Troubled kids are so afraid of prison that they change their ways to avoid such a dark future. However, there are multiple examples that say otherwise. Toby Keith Johnson was first featured on the show on Season 3, Episode 13. He was quiet and didn't show any emotion. The guards tried to break him down and make him feel bad about his choices, but he didn't budge. At the end, when the parents reunite with the children, Toby's mother didn't show up. 8 months later, Toby was featured on the show again. This time, he was an inmate.
Oh
he was
my
incarcerated
gosh.
for allegations of assaulting his mom.
Okay, this isn't the first time I've seen something like that then, because I saw one with like the black kid who was one of the former people on the show that ended up in juvie or in prison. But it's crazy to see that there were more kids just like that that ended up in the same situation.
Parole, but sadly, continued a life of crime. He was arrested multiple times on meth and gun charges, but the most recent one was the worst of them all. In August of 2020, he was arrested for imprisoning a 25-year-old woman and making threats of harm, with Johnson forcefully grabbing the victim by the throat, choking her, and violently throwing her to the ground. The aggression continued with it, even going as far as Toby threatening her with a knife. Law enforcement would report visible signs of bruising on the victim's neck. I think it's pretty obvious that Scared Straight had no positive effect on Toby.
Yo, yeah, nah, he looks like he did it. Oh my gosh. No, that's insane. They should have realized that this wasn't gonna work a long time ago. Dude, my whole thing is like, it's really a split, because there's kids who grow up with adults in their life, like moms or dads, who are really in that lifestyle, and you grow up seeing it a lot. You either follow their example or you aspire to be something greater than that. But it's just sad to see that they kept pushing this same agenda, thinking it was going to work, when clearly there were signs that this was causing more harm than good.
Whatsoever. Franklin Morris made his premiere on A&E in 2012. At the time of filming, he was living in Baltimore with his mother, Dana. In an emotional episode, Dana revealed the extent of Franklin's school suspensions, stating that she couldn't even begin to give a precise number. Franklin himself shared a nonchalant attitude towards his mother's concern, saying,
"My mother says I'm either going to end up dead or in jail. I really don't pay no mind."
At the young age of 14, Franklin participated in the program, already having convictions for gambling and vandalism. One of the incidents that landed Franklin a spot on the show saw Franklin and his friends wreak havoc in a store, knocking items off the shelves and vandalizing a local shop. Years after his time on the show, Franklin Morris became one of 3 teenagers who met a grim fate near a playground in North Baltimore. Alongside a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, Franklin was found shot in the head and pronounced dead at the scene.
Bro ended up dead? Jeez, his mom wasn't wrong, but jeez. Rest in peace, man. That's sad to say.
What I thought about going to the jail was, it really wasn't no big deal. The reset program, it didn't change me. It really don't feel no different.
Since the majority of the show's participants were children at the time, it's hard to find the long-term results of their lives. However, based on what I found, it seems like a lot of them went on to live regular lives. If you search what happened to so-and-so from Beyond Scared Straight, most of what you find is clickbait leading you to an Instagram page of someone who we can't confirm was actually on the show. So if the program has been proven to be ineffective through various extensive studies across the past 30 years, why did they do a show about it? Well, that's because the guy who has built his entire career from this program, Arnold Shapiro, is fully convinced that this program is a good thing. Shapiro says that all the extensive studies are totally irrelevant because they were done from 1967 to 1999. He also said that only the academic community believes proper counseling for youth offenders works. If society had the money or resources to do that, that would be great if every kid could have years of counseling, but it's not realistic. It would be interesting if A&E used the millions of profits from the show to get these youth offenders counseling, since society doesn't have the money, right? Shapiro shrugs off the criticism of Scared Straight. There's every variation. It works for some, it doesn't work for some. But you can say that about any program that exists. Shapiro thinks that as long as it works for some, then it justifies the program. And since the program exists, he is happy profiting off of it. He has openly admitted that the children they decide to be on the show are not the ones that they think will change, but rather the ones with the best personality. It really is based on their personalities and what happens with them. We didn't have any belief that Brandon T. from Michigan, who stood up to the officers and just kind of had a meltdown, would ever change. Even when the tour was over, he got thrown out, but we still picked.
Bro, you see, this is just entertainment for them at the end of the day. They don't give a damn whether the kids change or not. They were picking them strictly based off their personality. That's sad, bro.
Picked him because it was so explosive, and we never saw anything like that before or since. Although other kids have stood up to officers, it's amazing. When I went through high school or even college, you never thought you would disrespect a teacher or an authority figure, especially somebody in law enforcement. But these kids have no fear. It's crucial to question whether the pursuit of profits overshadows moral principles, as corporate interests often prioritize ratings and financial gain over the well-being of humans. But it makes it even worse when you consider that the people they are affecting are not consenting adults. These are children, and it's being broadcasted to millions of people to watch them suffer. They are being told that this is genuine rehabilitation, and they don't really have a choice to participate. Occasionally, they rebel so much that they get kicked out of the jail, but most of the time, they are trapped with no escape. The truth is, everyone wants a quick and cheap solution to an extremely complicated and layered social problem that is juvenile delinquency. But hey, as long as it works sometimes, it's all good. Right?
Nah, sometimes ain't enough. That's crazy. You can't keep gambling these kids' future like that. But either way, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And I'll check in with you guys again next time.
I'm so in love with you.